Hi, everyone. I recorded a shortish 10-minute video on narration, and I wanted to now move on to description. Your last essay for this class is a combination of the two modes or genres of narration and description. So you are telling a story, but you are doing it descriptively. So I wanted to talk through a little bit of the PowerPoint that you might have already checked out on Blackboard, but I wanted to talk through that in a little bit more detail. So when you are writing descriptively, I want you to think about using a lot of sensory detail. When we write descriptively, we automatically put the reader in our shoes as he or she is reading. So imagine the best vacation you've ever taken, and imagine trying to tell somebody about that vacation. And in order to help them feel as though they've been to the beautiful beaches and felt the calm breezes off the ocean and smelled the coconut and pineapple and hibiscus, it does something to us viscerally when we are able to feel as though we're experiencing something with the reader and the writer. So think about when you're writing descriptively, all of those sensory details. So touch, taste, sight, smell, and sound. In your pre-writing that I had you do last week, I asked you to write out as many of those sensory details as you could so that you could start to think about the experience in a sensory fashion. Now, we might not always be able to incorporate all five. For instance, the taste sense is not always something that is going to work in a story because maybe it did not involve eating food, but there are certainly going to be smells and sounds. We tend to focus most on sight because that's our primary sense. That's the way that we see the world. But think about the fact that there are oftentimes associated memories with smell. The way that the first time somebody cuts their lawn outside can transport me back to my grandparents' farm. The smell of lilacs can make me remember their dog Doc, who used to sit under the window in the lilac bush. Those are strong triggers. So when you can incorporate a full-fleshed experience with sensory detail, you give your reader the actual experience of being there with you. So when we write descriptively, we use those five senses as much as we can and as much as they apply to the story that we're telling. I have students in my face-to-face classes do this. Pick one of those topics, ostrich, dump truck, baby blanket, or strawberry, and try to describe it for somebody who's never seen one. And when you think about things like that, you're like, okay, well, if you've never seen an ostrich, it's a strange looking bird. It's a bird, but it's not like any other bird that you see flitting around the trees or in a chicken coop. It's a huge bird. So it has really long legs and a long neck, almost like a giraffe, big bulbous eyes, kind of dusty brown gray mottled feathers. I don't know that I could tell you what one smells like, but I'm going to imagine it's probably not great. So if you combine all of those sensory details, you can give somebody a fuller image, a fuller experience with what you're writing about. Think about, if going back to that vacation example, you can either do a postcard version of it or you can do a full sensory detail. So here's a postcard version of telling somebody about a vacation experience. It's fine. But I want to, as a reader, feel this. And so you go back to the waves toppling, the seagulls cawing, the salty, warm air blowing the hair off my neck. That puts me in the place versus this short little addition. So sensory details, here's an example of smelling coffee and getting out of bed. It's a full paragraph. It has some similes and metaphors in it. We can take very small experiences and make them big by writing in sensory detail and figurative language. So when you start to write your story, or if you are already started and continue writing, think about those concrete words that you can use. The more specific, the better. Concrete words are things that we can drop on our foot and we would feel it. They have a physical presence to them. So desk, car, cell phone, lamp, window, curtain, they are concrete. We can see them and we agree upon what they mean. Abstract words are those words associated with emotion. So love, hate, patriotism, jealousy, fear. They look and feel differently to everyone. And you are certainly probably going to be writing about some of those abstract ideas, but when possible, write concretely, write using those words that we can touch and feel. My idea of patriotism might differ for you from yours. And so if you're writing about patriotism, you can't assume that your reader's on the same board as you. So try to choose those specific concrete words. And the more specific you can be in your diction, the better. I have maybe written on some of your feedback to avoid cliches. Cliches are those borrowed, tired phrases that we've all heard before. He drives like a bat out of hell, or it's raining cats and dogs. These are phrases that we use that are overdone, and they're not fresh. And so when you're writing, you're trying to be authentic and unique and fresh. And the more specific, the more concrete that you can be, the better. And I do this exercise in class too. Just think about all the different types of hair that you run into if you go to the grocery store, which you might not be doing right now, but just paying attention to texture and length and color and maybe smell. There's lots of different varieties of things that we encounter in our lives, and how you describe it can determine for your reader whether you view it positively or negatively, and that gets into connotation. You are creating a dominant impression with your writing. So a dominant impression is basically a mood or an overall tone that you're creating, and we should know pretty immediately into your story whether it's happy or sad. And so think about what tone or mood you want to create. And let's see, what else do I have in this one? Vantage point, think of yourself as the movie director. When you are talking about the story, are you covering one room? So I'm in my second bedroom right now, and if I wanted to tell a story in one room, I wouldn't have to use as many transitions. I might use more dialogue. Or if I'm moving from room to room or going outside or moving across the state, that is a moving vantage point. So if I'm a filmmaker, I have my camera and I have to physically move to demonstrate the action. And so that's going to require a few more transitions as well. I asked you to do some vivid verb exercises in your pre-writing. So getting away from kind of the tired same phrases and verbs that we use and being more extensive in our vocabulary, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and using those verbs that really encapsulate what we want our readers to see. And then here's a sensory detailed chart. Fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989. I bet none of you are alive. And just all the things that you could see, smell, touch, taste, hear. Sometimes when I have a face-to-face class, I have students go outside and we sit on a bench in the sunshine, and I have you just listen for 5 to 10 minutes and record everything that you feel and see and smell and hear. And if you bring a granola bar, taste. So that's a good way to get yourself in the mood for writing descriptively, is just take a journal and sit outside and listen and smell and see. Take a few moments out of your life just to really observe everything going on around you, and that will help you in your writing. All right, that's description. I'll do one last one on diction, tone, and style.